And alright guys, welcome along to another episode of 420 News. Just first time going live actually from this new studio, and just getting used to the feel of it. But hopefully everybody's out all good out there, and yes, hopefully everybody's had a nice old week. It's Wednesday midweek guys. I see a couple of you already in the hot box anyway, so that's it's a good sign. Things are going right down here. Gonna just tilt that a little bit. Boom, looks a bit better. Not so bad, no. Out in the audience, who do we have? Paul Hedges, what's happening? First in there in the hot box, and followed closely by Miss Stowells, what's going on? Hi and Homegrown, what's happening? Master Mackie, and R420 Supplies as well. Says happy hump day, folks. I hope you're all having a great Wednesday. It's not going too bad here. Yeah, just started filling me belly with some good food, and looking forward to going out to a football match there later this evening with my daughter. So yeah, it's a great old Wednesday. Whilst out there, Jack Grissom, what's happening? It says, hope all is well, Martin. Keep up the good work. Great way to pass this bin to tip into Galway. Nice. And Paul Hedges as well as out there. What's happening, Paul? It says, off work today, waiting on the results of my PCR test. Very exciting. About to pack a bowl of some quality Stardog. Nice. Into his plenty vape. It says, and check out the Martin man. Nice one, Paul. Hopefully that's some nice Stardog you got there. Well, actually got some Jack Herrera here myself this evening. A little bit of Jack Herrera anyway. Took a sample branch there from a crop recently, so it's quite tasty. Pack up a bowl there now myself, and we'll tear on into that. We got our old Hempwick handy, Lion Boy. Now flame them to get it going. Paul Hedges, nice one, happy 420. John Regan, hello, what's happening? Content NL, what's going on? Says, what's the crack all? What's happening? Peter Kelly's out there as well, what's happening? Guys, keep your comments coming in the hot box. Quickly going to look where I put my water. Boom, found it. Yes. Thought I'd actually forgot it for a second. Boom. Guys, how's audio quality for everybody out there? Mic coming through loud and clear. No issues there with the audio. Kind of sounds like there's an echo in this new room. It's a bigger room, so I don't know, am I getting a bit of feedback echoing coming in? So let me know if the sound is like shite on your side, but doesn't sound too bad on mine anyway. Hein Homegrown says, nice. Jack Herrera, one of my favourite strains. Yes, it is a quality one, alright, it certainly is. I'd grown it about maybe, geez, what was that, about 5 years ago? But actually, it was a strain I was growing while I was in Cork prison. I was renting a place out the countryside, and we had a couple of plants in the gaff, and I ended up actually having to go to prison. I was held in there for 5 days, but luckily enough, I had a buddy who went out to the place and looked after the plants while we were locked up inside of there. So yeah, I believe that was the Jack Herrera, and I think we might have had some AK-47 up there as well. Memories. It's been a while now since I had this strain. Probably enjoyed it that more just because of the fact I wasn't long out of bloody prison when we got the harvest down and dry. So let's blaze up some Jack Herrera here now in me not so clean bong. It's got clean water though, guys. Clean your water every day. Ain't good to let that water sit there going stagnant and stuff like that. It's apparently it's dirtier than a fucking toilet bowl at times. So clean your water daily, guys. Wash your bong as often as you can afford. Isopropyl alcohol. It's kind of better to keep that stuff for other means. It's actually the first bong hitting the new studio. It's actually only a temporary location as another location is getting prepared, getting banished to an outside shack. But all the better though, it's getting me more privacy. Hopefully we don't get too many interruptions at this location. Nice one, Mackie. Nice one. Good to hear the sound is good. A nice one as well, John. Mr. Wes says, waiting on a Star Dog to finish up. Need to pop a Jack there though. Huge fan. Yeah, nice. The Jack or that Star Dog is it's quite popular actually. In fairness, isn't it? But yeah, you can't bait some Jack there. It'll put you on your ass, but like you could technically smoke it like throughout the day if you aren't really doing the dog on it. But yeah, it's definitely a good daytime smoke. But in the evening, once you pack up that extra old bowl, it can definitely put you away if you need it. DB Woodcraft, what's happening? And Barry Fields is out there as well. What's happening, Mr. Fields? Hi and homegrown here saying that we should get you on the show soon, Martin. It's been a while. Give me a shout on Percy's when you're free so we can arrange something. Yeah, not a bother at all. I'll definitely work that in. Just getting settled into this new studio, so we'll kind of see what the time constraints are around it, as sound is an issue here at the moment. Just can't be doing the late night stuff down here, I don't think, just yet. As sound travels. But once I get out to that outside shack, I should have a bit more freedom there in the evening. But yeah, leave it with us. Green Tay, what's happening, Miss Green Tay? Says, great to see you back streaming. Yeah, it's good to be back as well. Hopefully everybody enjoys the stream. And yeah, I got to give a big shout out as well to Hazmat out there. Hazmat, who's always listening over on the Twitch. I don't know if that's my one and only viewer there at the moment over on Twitch, but Hazmat, if you're out there, you're a hero. This new stream deck is it's quite handy, so it's like you made a little stream. Oh yeah, it's 420. Ooh, 420 news. That's kind of nice and handy stream deck here. It's really useful. So yeah, big shout out to Hazmat who supported the show and sent that on my way. I'll make sure to get used to using it, so I'll become a bit more professional here with this the stream and make it a bit more seamless. New studio, you moved house or just in a different room? Yeah, moved gaff there not too long ago, so so no, I'm in a different room. So let's get cracking, I suppose. So look, I am such a fucking titty. Again, as I said, apologies, guys. Getting used to this new stream deck. I set up a new scene a while ago to get it going, so I could kind of, click the button and turn it on and off. And guess what I forgot to fucking do? I forgot to add the audio input. Again, that's not the first time that's happened here on the Martin's World. So if you're still a subscriber at this stage, you're well used to me, and I'm sure you'd forgive me again. What an absolute pleb. My bad, guys. Apologies. So yeah, we'll restart that again. So I was talking there that the woman I'm going to talk about here on this Pat Kenny show, it's a highlight from the Pat Kenny show. She's Marie Byrne. She's described as an author and an addiction specialist. And she was on there kind of trying to sell copies of her book, really. When it came to the end of it, she was just shamelessly plugging her book. And it's only a $5 a book, guys, so why wouldn't you buy it? And this is actually the book, so I'm going to pop up the book again. So there's the book. So Angel in the Marble is the name of the book, and it's described here. Internationally renowned author Marie Byrne's book includes guides and information advising parents about children's use of drugs, about addiction and corruption. Interesting kind of words there, corruption. That's corruption really got to do with drugs, unless you're going to address the prohibition of drugs and the kind of corruption involved there. But I couldn't believe that's going to be a part of it. I'd imagine it's kind of the corruption of the individual because of their drug use. So it really gives you an idea of this woman's kind of where she's coming from, her perspective on this. And it goes on to say that most importantly about prevention and early intervention in order to live healthier and happier lives. So she was on there shamelessly trying to sell copies of her books, which she said was only a $5, but it says $14.99 here. So it's kind of misleading people. But anyway, she gets introduced here by Pat Kenny, so I'll let him introduce her there.
Up there as the one that Marie Byrne is with us. Hello, Marie.
Hello.
This is a really surprising statistic, because when it comes to illegal drugs, and let's face it, they are illegal drugs, cannabis is always put up there as the one that is the least offensive of the lot. But it seems to have a very different impact on younger brains.
Oh, absolutely, and on any brain for that matter. But I've worked all over the world. I've met lots of people who have been running programmes, as I did myself, for recovery. And we would all cite that cannabis is probably the first one that starts to cause the problems. And that's because of the changes that it creates in the brain. And we have a lot of young people now who are starting to use, not because they're bad or anything, it's because it's available and because they can sneak it past parents at home sometimes. And they're starting at age 11. So you can see the problems they're going to have in schools at the moment, which they are already having, where you have young people who have short-term memory loss, having panic attacks. It causes depression, and early drug use can lead to adult cannabis and other drug use plus addiction for sure.
So this woman's kind of revealing her position there. She's travelled the world. She's been spouting this thing for years, that cannabis is bad. It's gateway to other drugs. But she's never really kind of listened, I'd imagine, to somebody like Gabor Mate and others out there as well who talk about, the fact that this gateway theory is a complete myth, that there's nothing at all in cannabis that can actually lead a person to go on to harder drugs. And in actual fact, the reason why people go on to other drugs after they use cannabis is because cannabis was not filling the gap that they were actually using the cannabis initially to fill. So this lady, she's really just going to the most extreme end of things, because she's talking only about the fact that people start using cannabis when they're 11. It was like, well, hang on a sec. We're talking about Ireland here. Like, if people are using cannabis here because of they're 11, that's because of cannabis prohibition. If people start drinking alcohol when they're 11, it's probably taking a sneaky sup of your dad's pint while you're down at the pub or something, having the Sunday dinner or something, and there's no real harm in that, in all fairness, I still have memories there of babies' dummies getting dipped into the head of a pint, and giving the baby, suck off that head of a pint, and nobody really frowning too much about it. It's going back a good couple of years ago now. I haven't seen that being done anytime recently, but many years ago you'd see that happening, and there'd be no real issues about it. But the thing is, like, nobody within the cannabis legalization movement is advocating for childhood use of cannabis. In fact, we're actually saying that legalization and regulation will make it more difficult for kids to get access to it, because currently, you know, cannabis is being sold in schoolyards. Alcohol and tobacco, it's not being sold in schoolyards. Why? Because regulation works. There's no real money in it for kids. Like, like in fairness, when I was 11, I could barely get enough money to go to the shop to get a bag of chilies, like, you know. So I've gone out there buying cannabis, or going out and buying cans or anything like that. It was completely, you know, it was a non-existent idea. Quite often or not, when we were 11, we were just out there playing ball and stuff like that. Like, so it was never really an issue. But yeah, fails to mention prohibition and within the entirety of our argument here, our discussion on this. But we let her continue.
What is the definition of addiction? I mean, occasional use is what? Maybe once or twice a week? What makes it more significant?
Well, even that for a young person can be detrimental, because any cannabis going in lacks THC, which years ago was a certain strength. When the famous pop bands were using it, it would be like parsley now, because what they're using now is about 3 times that strength.
So, like, here we go, the age-old argument of the strength of cannabis. The cannabis today is not the cannabis of, you know, what it was there when you were growing up. You know, it's just fear-mongering. Like, I'm backing it up with no actual credible information. Like, when you really think about it, when you look at the statistics and where they get this, like, oh, cannabis is stronger today than what it was before, it's because the availability of high quality cannabis has certainly improved, but that wasn't that the high quality cannabis wasn't available in the past. Like, if you went back to the 70s, 80s, like, there was guys growing some high quality cannabis back then, but it just wasn't being moved around in the quantities that it's been moved around in today. So over the years, you know, the availability of high quality cannabis was increasing. But that's not to say that it wasn't always available. But to say that the quality is improving is not an argument against legalization. It's actually kind of it's an argument for regulation, to be fair, because the strength of cannabis is going up, but you as a consumer, you know, we all know about it. You know, you go down to buy your bag of weed and it's like, oh, what strain is that? And the dealer's looking at you, what you mean, what strain is that? It's 50 quid. Do you want it or not? That's what strain it is. Do you know, that typical thing? So as consumers, you're better protected in regulation. But look, I'm preaching to the choir. You all know this. And this lady, you know, comes on as an expert, as, you know, she knows, she's just remaining ignorant to this. She's traveled the world. Surely she's seen other places where regulation actually works, where consumers can go in and make an educated decision, where in actual fact that THC isn't what drives a consumer's decision when buying cannabis. And that's been shown over in the US, where initially it was all about high THC. But as the market matured, as people kind of moved away from the prohibition market and kind of into a regulated market, people kind of became, oh yeah, I'm not actually after the high THC. I like that Star Dog because, you know, that Star Dog tastes decent, you know, and I don't care if it's not 30% THC, you know, 17.5 is good enough for me, you know. So yeah, regulation, and she's just not talking about this when she's talking about the strength of cannabis is going up. How as we as consumers protect ourselves, and how the fucking young people, you know. And again, you only have to look at alcohol prohibition as the how prohibition of alcohol made the potency of alcohol go up. The availability of beer became more difficult, because obviously moving beer is a lot more difficult than moving spirits. You move a big bottle of spirits there and you're going to get a party going with that, you know. You move a slab of beer and it's, you know, you kind of keep maybe 2 lads going for an evening, like, with a slab. But, you know, the spirits was where it was at back then during Prohibition. So it's the Prohibition actually drives the strength up. So regulation, in fact, then would lead to a more mature market, like where you're going to be, you know, looking for the connoisseur side of things, chasing flavors and all of that. So we let her continue, because we're just going to rip this whole thing apart.
and it's hydroponically grown. It has 500 chemicals approximately in it.
So again, like more fear-mongering, hydroponically grown, just trying to scare people. Hydroponics is nothing to be afraid about. Like hydroponics is actually a really cool innovation that we as humans has kind of come up with, the innovate the growing of plants and the sustainability of growing of plants. So again, you know, hydroponics is nothing to be afraid of. This reference then of 500 chemicals in the plant, like again, she's just fear-mongering, getting a snippet of information, which is there's 500 chemicals. There's almost 500 known cannabinoids within the cannabis plant, or phytocannabinoids. So that's what she's referring to, but that's nothing to be afraid of, like, you know. But she's saying it as if it is fear-mongering. This is exactly what we're hearing here. Like, this is propaganda. Complete BS, because when you actually look down into all these different compounds actually elicit therapeutic effects upon the body, anti-inflammatory effects, antioxidant effects, you name it. That there's untold benefits there within all of these. The 500 compounds. We'll continue.
Some of the cannabis is laced with PCP, which is another chemical used for anesthesia, and
so again, regulation there. Anybody out there want some PCP with their cannabis? I certainly don't. Let's continue.
It's having an effect if they use it, because it'll stay in the system for up to approximately 4 weeks, even if you use one joint. So for any of them starting off, it's why they're using it, how you can meet that need in another way.
I'd imagine, well, the main reason they start using it is because their peers are using it and they come under pressure to use it. That's how it always starts. But, you know, they will see, and they will have learned and assumed and been told a little bit of weed is okay. And that's probably why they're willing to take that risk.
Absolutely. And they are only children. And I mean, did any of us know anything when we started off? And so that's why it's more important that parents know what they're doing in this situation.
So again, like, she's all about the parents knowing what they're doing. Like, you know, there's no reference here to the policymakers. Where's the reference at all from these experts to the policymakers? Why is it always on the parents? Like, we as parents can only do so much. Like, but we know it's curiosity to kill the cat, so to speak. But we should hope that through education and demystifying and like shedding all of this kind of allure that's around these illicit drugs, if we just made them like normal and like just something that was just talked about, like beer, there was not really alluring about beer except that, I wonder what it's like to get a bit drunk, like that's kind of about it. But not everybody gets that curiosity. But isn't it better that it's satisfied in a safe and regulated environment rather than the current prohibition? This lady ain't do nothing about talking about this, but we'll continue. Listen to this piece of gold that you're about to hear here now. Listen to this piece of gold, how she compares that, like how the dangers of cannabis towards kids and parents, their role in that. Listen to this piece.
Situation. If you saw a truck coming down the road, would you allow them to experiment by standing in front of it? So you really do have to get in between them and the drugs.
So she just compared experimenting with drugs to experimenting by standing in front of a truck on the main road. In fairness, like, that is really all you need to know about this woman's opinion as the effect of drugs on an individual. Like, she compares it to experimenting with a truck on the road. I'm going to stand in the middle of the road and see what happens there when this truck just keeps coming towards me. Like, and did you ever hear such fucking... I just going to hold back there because... exactly, guys. Yeah, wow, utter gobshites. Like, it's ridiculous, this nonsense from this lady. But we'll continue. Like, we'll let her continue here because she doesn't stop there. Like, she continues to make a right arse of herself.
And you have to become extremely proactive. I mean, the children are depending on you to parent in the drug age. And, you know, unfortunately with we know adults who use drugs and they don't appear to show side effects, although for sure it's affecting the brain in some way.
So, like, you're using cannabis You don't appear to be affected by it, but you have to be affected by it in some way. Like that's exactly what she said there. It's kind of like going back to this asymptomatic COVID carrier type of thing. You know what I mean? You could be sick, you mightn't feel sick, but you probably could be sick, you know. But no, this is kind of it. You're using cannabis, so like, well, you have to be harmed by cannabis. It's absolute BS, this lady here. Like, let her continue.
Children have heard and picked up on the thing that it's safe to use. And that comes with the legalisation movement as well. But
no, that doesn't come with the legalisation movement. Cannabis is, like, when you compare it to other drugs on the scale of harms, it's relatively benign in terms of the harms that come from it. But yes, you do have those kind of more extreme side effects that can happen to people who are predisposed to certain things, you know. Again, setting as everything when it comes to using different substances, but you can't really blame the substance for the harm caused to the individual. You have to look at a lot of the stuff before that. So this lady is just
isn't safe. I have not seen it actually better anybody.
So that part there, that she's not seen it better anybody. Like, she's completely just ignorant to the fact that cannabis is helping people out there. Like, she's not heard of people like Alicia Marr, people like Amy Brown. She's not heard of Ava Toomey. Like, she's not heard of all of the countless people who've been campaigning for access to cannabis over the years. It's like 16,000 patients over in the UK currently using cannabis legally through the private prescription program over there. And this lady is on the radio here in Ireland, like, telling people that as an expert, no, cannabis has helped nobody. In fact, if you're using cannabis, you must be affected by it. It must be doing harmful effects to you. And you're nothing to back it up then either. Like, she's just speaking from her podium as an addiction expert.
And it has reduced their motivation and disrupted them. Some can become aggressive on it. It takes away. You'll see them drop out of school, for instance, earlier. Most
such bullshit. Like, I got an honours degree in herbal science, lady. Cannabis motivated me to get that. You know, the prohibition of cannabis actually kind of seen me getting pushed out of academia because of how stigmatized the whole area and the topic is. It's just so taboo. None of the supervisors kind of wanted to entertain the idea of doing any research around the topic or the plant. So, like, talking about school dropouts, like, no, I achieved highly in college, and I was nice and high the whole time doing it, you know. Study high, take the test high, get high scores. Never failed me.
I would say drop out of school are drug related, and cannabis will be the one I'd cite, you know, first.
Parents will do their best to navigate these waters. It is often very difficult to have these conversations with a teenager who might throw their eyes up to heaven and think, here's comes the thought police again. But how do you recommend parents have that conversation? What, do they have to go to extreme examples to try and scare children off, or is an open, frank conversation about the risks the best way to proceed?
Frank. Like, in fairness, the only role the parents should have when it comes to drug use and kids, it should be just educating them as to the different substances, as the, you know, the difference between use and abuse of the different substances. And if they've got any questions or if they're curious to use a substance, that they come to you as a parent first before pursuing that, you know. It should never be kind of this thing that you never talk about, and it's just a simple, no, don't say no to drugs, don't do drugs. You know, you need to have an open, honest conversation with them. And truly be honest with them, because the kids will pick up on deceit. That they'll know if you're trying to deceive them, if you're going to lie to them, and all that's going to do is going to elicit more curiosity. Because they're going to wonder, well, why are they trying to lie to me about this? Well, what is it about this that just, you know, that they're trying to put it enshroud it in all this kind of scary stuff? When in fact, I can kind of see from all of this stuff online, YouTube, you know, the songs I'm listening to, that it's cannabis is kind of everywhere it's used, and it's not really problematic for so many people. So if you try to lie to your kids about that and be like, oh no, it's going to rot your brain, it's going to do this, or unmotivated and drop out. And it's like, talk about unmotivated. Look at fucking Snoop Dogg. Like, he's far from unmotivated. Like, you know, I can use myself as an example, but I could use so many fucking more. Like, you know, we've got Olympic and athletes there who've used cannabis or are active users of cannabis, and they're taking the first place on the podium. You know, Philip Phelps, or whatever his name is, your man Phelps, the swimmer. Usain Bolt, isn't he another cannabis user? You know, the two of the fastest men on the planet, one on land, one in water, and both active cannabis users. So, you know, talk about making them unmotivated and lazy. It's just like, lady, come on. So many examples that just completely trash all of your arguments. But I would love to have her up on the podium, you know, and like have a proper debate with herself and, you know, somebody like Garrett McGovern, because I'd imagine he'd completely tear this lady apart. But yeah, just, you know, parents' role should be to educate, and it's the policymakers there we should be always talking about. Like, this lady should be talking about the policymakers. Parents are doing the darndest. Parents are stretched thin as it is. Parents are working 2 fucking jobs as it is to kind of meet the cost of living, because the government, again, the policymakers are wrecking all our lives. So that they're wrecking our lives, you know, when it comes to the cost of living, but they're also wrecking our lives when it comes to the dangers faced to our kids because of this drug prohibition that they keep in place. Drugs are ever more accessible for kids. There's 11-year-olds, according to this lady, using cannabis and stuff like that. That shouldn't be the case. Shouldn't be that easy to get it. Again, you know, I talked about it there last week in town, or 2 weeks ago in town, when we were in there for the support Unpunish. Look, a couple of young fellas walking by smoking joints as we were doing our little kind of thing on support Unpunish, and it was a prime example as to how prohibition has failed. Lads couldn't get tobacco. The lads had to come over and were bumming tobacco before they walked back past with those joints, because they couldn't walk into the shop and buy tobacco. It's hilarious. But they had weed, because, you know, you don't need an ID to buy weed. You don't even need money to buy weed. This lady won't talk about that at all, would she? So again, parents' role. Parents are doing enough. It's the pressure needs to be on the policymakers.
Yeah, and I take your point. I don't think that scaring them to death actually works. Otherwise, everybody, I mean, they've all seen things on the internet and so on now. They've access to everything. And that's another thing that actually influences that some of the cannabis chat that they get comes in through the internet, and people need to be aware of that when they're 11 and 12 years of age. No, I think it's more finding out where the children are at. Because of the risk with not just addiction, but because it affects grey matter in the brain and can decrease it, which is, you know, it's a big thing to be losing your grey matter. It's, you know, they need to look at how the children will can become more depressed. And the surveys across the world now are showing relations to suicidal thoughts.
Like, again, she's clutching off of these studies that are being done by these groups in support of prohibition. It's been done by money that's coming only because they're in support of prohibition. Research that, you know, it starts off with a predefined outcome. They want to associate these certain things with cannabis. They'll completely ignore the fact that the people who were maybe using doing these surveys were actually maybe in a mental health thing where they're self-harming already, and they were actually using cannabis as a means of self-medication. They'll completely ignore that and be like, oh yeah, well, they were using cannabis, and the cannabis must have elicited these suicidal thoughts, this suicidal planning, suicidal ideation. But in actual fact, no, the people that were as part of the population were people who were self-medicating with cannabis, and correlation is not causation at all. But she'll never acknowledge this at all. She is a grifter of the highest order. It's so fucking true. And I do believe she probably has a doctor in front of her name. Marshall Atheist is saying there, does this grifter have a doctor in front of her name? Check out the recent episode of Star Talk for an actual academic talking about cannabis. And I'd actually recommend that as well. I believe, I can't remember who was on with Neil deGrasse Tyson, but there was a recent episode there that I only caught a piece of it. I haven't watched all of it, but what I did catch was quite good. So get over there, check out Star Talk. They have an episode up there on cannabis. They were kind of breaking down a lot of the pharmacology of it when I was looking at it. So I was really enjoying that, as I'm currently working on a project actually, which that was feeding in well too. So we will say no more. We won't get you too excited about something that I might not be able to deliver for a bit. But we let this lady finish, because for a bit, we're not going to let her finish out the whole clip. There's just one more piece there, you know, the
and
Helen Lovejoy
planning and so on. So It's very important that people find out where their children are, who they're with, become a bit of a bore, really. I'd say I'm really viewed as that, I can tell you from my conversations about drugs. But it's, you know, you don't get invited to all the parties.
No, I desperately want to become a Helen Lovejoy character where I keep mentioning, will someone please think of the children? But as I kind of, you know, start to navigate this in my own family, I start to see risks everywhere. And I think that, you know, there is a possibility right now that we've become a little bit more cavalier in our attitudes towards addiction. Even something simple like disposable vapes. And vapes are a really good way to get people who smoke cigarettes off cigarettes and away from the risks that are there. But it absolutely terrifies me to see young people, teenagers, walking down the street with these vapes that probably contain nicotine, which is as addictive as it would be if they were smoking cigarettes. And then if it's normal to do that, it's possibly normal to do this with cannabis as well. And it's, you know, we need to realise addiction is still a thing. It hasn't gone away.
Again, like, you know, always sticking with this kind of pure problem thing. But again, you know, he talks there about being afraid about the kids with vapes, and but he never talks about, again, the problems posed by prohibition with these things, with the different vapes. And they haven't talked about the synthetics there. They talked about PCP. They only just mentioned it there briefly a few earlier on in this. But when they came to this whole thing, kids vaping cannabis and the nicotine ones as well, they never mentioned the dangers there with prohibition, you know, that the synthetics are out there. So again, if these people were really genuine about wanting to help people, they would be surely doing more about that. But again, you know, this lady exposed herself then afterwards, not long afterwards, she goes and...
oh, absolutely, Jonathan. And, you know, anyone with children, really, at the end of the day, it's all right being, you know, trying to fit in with the groups outside and agree with whatever everybody else is putting forward. But the truth is, when you're looking at your own children at home and you see how they're threatened by drug use, you really do have to become, and you're absolutely right, I have a really sore point about vaping, because a lot of the people are vaping cannabis now as well, but smoking a lot of weed, mixing it with tobacco, and so you've also got the respiratory problems as well. So if, you know, I think as a parent, you've really got to be a parent and not just a best friend. You have to love them enough to be able to say no sometimes when they want to do things that you know are really not in their best interest. But be around their friends, know where they're going. Don't be afraid to check on it, what they're on the internet, because there's so much on it now. And I think also that instead of them meeting their needs and their belonging needs by fitting in with a group who use drugs, it's to try and find alternative activities. But no matter how healthy you think those activities are, find out what's the policies around drug use, or will they report to you if they know that your child is. So it's everybody working together. If it's any help, Jonathan, I plug it, of course, my own book here. I have a book, Angel in the Marble, and I honestly wrote it because from working around the world and seeing so many people with psychiatric and mental health illnesses from smoking cannabis,
like from smoking cannabis, like this is complete BS. That there's people in there who probably were developing mental health problems, and cannabis use was associated with that, or you know, because they were maybe again self-medicating. If you're going to be developing a mental health problem, something as serious as maybe schizophrenia or something, you know, cannabis tends to help calm them down a little bit. The same with tobacco and nicotine. It's actually very beneficial as well for people who suffer with schizophrenia. There's some nootropics within nicotine, and that's shown that people who suffer with schizophrenia, that population of people tend to be unnaturally higher percentage-wise tobacco smokers compared to the rest of the normal population who don't have schizophrenia. So there you go. There's an interesting one for you. It's not that tobacco makes you become schizophrenic. It's not that if you have schizophrenia, then you're more predisposed to be a tobacco user. Same goes for cannabis. But yeah, a complete moron. She's on there only to sell her book. Again, I'd love to see her out there on a podium against somebody like maybe Garrett McGovern. Be interesting to see if we could ever arrange that someday. So we put her away for a while anyway. That was Marie Byrne. She's an author of that book she talked about there, Angel in the Marble, and I just couldn't help but go on to that. They started that piece because they were talking about the young brain. The young brain is malleable to harm from pretty much anything, really, when you think about it. Like, all substances really are going to affect the shaping of the young brain, because the young brain is always going to be reshaping itself, because it's just new and developing. So like to say that cannabis is doing harm because it's causing a changing in the shape of the brain, it's just like, no. Who's to say that these changes are negative, really? Because I can't really see anything, at least in my own use of cannabis. I've never really experienced any negative effects, except if I can PTSD or being criminalized for it. But sure, we all know about that. We go on and on about it. Martial Atheist. Stupid book name. Sounds like a bad Christian soft focus show from the 80s. Yeah, there's definitely those Christian vibes there from it. Angel in the Marble. Again, it's like this kind of whole temperance movement. You need to keep the body pure, free from all these substances. I'd imagine they're going to be like, oh yeah, these substances are put on earth by Satan to tempt you. Nonsense. But you want to hear more nonsense out there? We'll go to a story here from Ireland. This is a story here from Ireland, and let's hit this there. Boom. There was a man who started growing cannabis for his terminally ill mother, and he got a suspended prison sentence. This was a case of a 29-year-old man, and he got caught with cannabis oil, and cannabis plants. So he dried cannabis herb. I think there was some money there as well, but it was a 29-year-old apprentice electrician who had no past convictions, and he was given a 2.5-year prison sentence, which was suspended for 3 years after he started growing cannabis for his terminally ill mother. Says the defendant had his home raided back in February 2020, just 3 months before his mother passed away from cancer. So February, his house got raided, and his mother passed away 3 months later around May. And again, you have to wonder, it was this whole ordeal something that maybe sped up the mother's passing? Because you can imagine the stress that having your home raided is going to have. And yes, the mother was present during this raid, because they actually took the mother's cannabis oil, which she was using for her chronic pain at the time, from her bedside locker, probably the bed she later passed away in. Like, what kind of inhumane individuals can do this? Like, because it is inhumane treatment of these people. People should have the right to be able to grow and use cannabis as to their benefit, as long as they're like not illegally selling it, because there's no legal way to actually sell it. But if you want to grow cannabis and gift it to your fucking neighbor, so be it. Like, but people should be free to do it, and they shouldn't have their homes raided, because it's more harmful to have your home raided than it is to actually use cannabis. But they're going to say anyway that during the raid in his home, the Gardaí took €10,000 worth of cannabis from the property, including a bottle of cannabis oil, which was on his dying mother's bedside locker, leaving the mother without the medicine she was using to treat her chronic pain. Despite this, the defendant took full responsibility for the cannabis which was found in his home and fully cooperated with the Gardaí. It says drug dealing for paraphernalia, and I'm putting in brackets there, most likely a weighing scales was found in the bedroom, and messages were also found in his phone, and the defendant admitted to the Gardaí that he sold cannabis to his friends. So again, like, he kind of put his hands up and was like, yeah, look, there's messages there that I sold cannabis to some friends. Yeah, so what? Like, how many of us out there have sold cannabis to our friends? And to be fair, like, if you're growing some cannabis and you happen to have some spare, and your friends kind of happen to ask you, like, can we get some cannabis off you? Yeah, you're going to give it to them, aren't you? So like, yeah, throw me 50 quid there. You're probably going to give them a nice deal, give them a nice, I don't know, nice quarter there for 50 quid, because, you're just a sound friend and you got a nice jar of cannabis lying around, and the next harvest looks like it's going to be good too. But again, like, just because you sold a couple of bags to your friends, it doesn't make you like, a drug dealer per se, but obviously, technically it does. It goes on to say that the judge, Martina Baxter, said drugs were a scourge on society. Even if people didn't think cannabis did any harm, it's an illegal substance and it has an egregious effect on society. While some people say it might not have a huge adverse effect on them, it is illegal and it's a controlled drug. Well, it's not actually a controlled drug, is it? There's 11-year-olds using it, and they're probably using synthetic cannabis then as well because of the uncontrolled nature really of it. If it really was a controlled drug, we'd be actually regulating it and having an age limit at the point of sale. But no, it's not a controlled drug. And in actual fact, the real egregious effect on society is not caused by drugs, but it's caused by drug prohibition. So Judge Martina Baxter, again, another individual, another grifter coming in here, sitting on her throne, speaking as if she's some person who knows everything, but in actual fact, she's a part of the problem that she seeks to solve. And she's not aware of it, because she benefits by continuing to be a part of the problem. She's a judge. She gets paid an exorbitant amount of money. She gets to go in and have like days and holidays and all of that. She lives in some probably savage mansion somewhere with big walls around it, nice and secure there. But meanwhile, out in the real world, we're living in housing estates where your next door neighbour could be the local heroin dealer because of the prohibition of drugs. Again, it doesn't even have to be a heroin dealer. You could have next door the biggest cannabis dealer in the city, and the problem still could come with that because there could still be issues there arising from that, because who are they getting the cannabis from? Or they could be getting it from the Kinahans. You just don't know. And one day, your gaff gets petrol bombed because, the person coming down to do an attack got the wrong gaff by mistake because you just happen to be next door. So there you go. There's the real scourge in society. Drug prohibition, not drugs. And the judge went on to say that he's an educated young man with the support of his family. No doubt his heart was in the right place as he was sourcing it for his mother, who was terminally ill at the time, but there was also drug dealing paraphernalia and he was cultivating it in his bedroom. There was clear evidence he had been selling cannabis and he was effectively running a business from his bedroom. It's absolute bullshit, running a business from his bedroom. His guy was probably making an extra couple of pound there and decided to cover the cost of the growing of the cannabis, cover the cost of the electricity there for the growing of the cannabis. But no, that's not really running a business when you were growing it initially to help your mother, and then you helped out a couple of friends then as well because the harvest was bountiful. But the judge went on to say that it's unfortunate that his mother has passed and not seen him rehabilitated. So I was like, man, what do you mean rehabilitated? The guy didn't really need rehabilitation. The only the thing that's in need of rehabilitation is our drug policy in this country. But to say that about this individual, like he does, this man's mother was probably incredibly proud of him for growing cannabis, for helping alleviate our pain at a time when that the health professionals were leaving her down. They've known for a long time of the need to provide access to cannabis to these patients, and they've denied it for so fucking long. For what? In support of this fallacy of a drug-free world. And that's what it is. It's a fallacy. It's unachievable. It's never going to be achieved unless the government stick chips into us and turn us into their walking, talking robots. But that's the only way we're going to get rid of this desire for individuals to alter their states of consciousness. We all seek to do it in some shape or form. Some people like to use cannabis. Some people like to drink beer. Some people like mushrooms. Some people like to go on a fucking 4-hour run and get out of it that way. Whatever it is, so be it. Like we're all entitled to our choices in life. And when it's affecting nobody else but ourselves, it shouldn't come with it such severe punishments such as your freedoms being taken away. Not only your freedom to be out in society, but your freedom to travel within society too. If I want to go to the US now, it's going to be more difficult because of my convictions. Jobs are more difficult, all because I chose to use cannabis. So wrong. But they went on to say that this was after the court heard that the defendant had been undertaking regular urine analysis to show that he was no longer taking illegal drugs and he had taken significant steps to rehabilitate himself. So several reports were handed into the courts from professionals, including counsellors and probation services who had dealt with the defendant since his arrest, which were all very favourable. The court also heard from his father, now a widower with 2 sons, and also from the man's boss who vouched for him too. His defence barrister said he is very apologetic for what he had done and now recognises the road he went down was wrong. I hate this shit where they make people be ashamed for what they done. What you done wasn't wrong. You grew cannabis for your mother. You sold some to your friends. What's wrong with that? If I grew some tomatoes, and if my friends wanted some, I'd probably just give it to them for free. But because of the illegal nature of cannabis, the risk you're taking, it's yeah, you wouldn't mind taking a bit of cash for that, because like you do run a risk, and the cost of production can be quite high at times, and it's nice, you know, to be able to kind of take a little chip off of the electricity bill before it comes. Like, so yeah, what's the harm in selling a little bit to your friends? But again, if cannabis wasn't illegal, then you would probably just give it to your friends. There'd be no charge, because you'd go down to the road and you'd probably be able to buy a couple of grams for a couple of euro. You can buy 25 grams of other herbs for a couple of euro. So why couldn't you buy that much of cannabis for that? Like, I don't understand why you couldn't anyway. But anyway, Judge Baxter says she accepted that his remorse was genuine, and also took into his account his early pleas for full cooperation with the Guardian and other matters into account. She sentenced him to 2.5 years in prison, but suspended it for a period of 3 years. And I go on to say that then at the end that if you think this is a waste of taxpayers' money, and that cannabis should no longer be illegal, then on the 10th of July, come to Dublin's Phoenix Park for a peaceful protest against the prohibition of cannabis in Ireland and across the world. So there's a little poster there for the picnic in the park. That's actually an old poster. I have the new one here. Boom, there's the new one. So the major group for cannabis reform, they're the organisers of this event. In support at the end, there's a couple of little logos down at the bottom there. I don't know if you can see those at all, but it's Martin's World. There's the Dublin Cannabis Club, Students for Sensible Drug Policy, Patients for Safe Access, the Tidy Buds, and Cannabis Activist Alliance. So they're all supporting the major group for cannabis reform on 7:10 above there at the Phoenix Park. So that's this Sunday, guys. So I've told you about this in the past, so you should already have this in your calendar. But if it's your first time hearing about it, get it into your calendar. 7:10 above there in the Phoenix Park. Hey, Mr. Fudge. Hey, Mr. Run On, what's happening? I Run On there saying that most strawberries are hydro-grown now. That's very true, actually. Run On. Most of our vegetables are hydro-grown. You ever see these floating farms? There's actually farms where they put a seed in a root cube on one side, and by the time the seed cube reaches the other side, an entire head of lettuce will have grown. They're really cool. I wonder would I be able to find a video of one. Yeah, here we go. Here's kind of an idea of one anyway. Look at that. Nice one again, Hazmat. This Stream Deck is definitely coming in handy. Getting used to it now. First time using it, taking it for a proper test drive today. So we'll certainly get better. But here we go. We see some of these floating lettuce farms here. Like, there's nothing to be afraid of hydro, but the way that lady talked about it, there's 500 chemicals. No, they're naturally occurring chemicals within the cannabis plant. Like, does she want to talk about lettuce? Oh, there's so many hundred chemicals within your lettuce, but actually these chemicals she's talking about are your vitamins and the nutrients within it that you're consuming it for. It's hilarious, all right. But yeah, even more hilarious is going to be the next story that we're going to get stuck into in a second. But before we get to that, there's some more positive news there. Germany have began the process of legalizing recreational cannabis in their country. But again, you know, this is just another one of these clickbait headlines, as it's all it really is the discussions have began over in Germany now as to how they're going to regulate cannabis going forward. So there isn't any published papers as such yet, but they're beginning the discussions as to how will the bill look. So it says here the country is expected to have a draft bill to legalise recreational cannabis later this year, and it says this week Germany is set to initiate an attempt to legalise cannabis products within the country after a series of public hearings. It says led by German Chancellor Olaf Scholz, centre-left Social Democrats, the Green Party and pro-business Free Democrats. They met with health experts, economists and cannabis growers this past week, and it says their hope is to push the legalization through in 1 to 2 years. So again, you know, hopefully they might be able to do a little bit faster than that, but hopefully maybe there might be something done in the meantime to stop people being criminalised through the courts. So maybe they might decriminalise it in some form and then come up with the legal, however they're going to regulate it afterwards. But again, they're probably not. They're probably going to make people wait 1 to 2 years, and still people are going to be going to courts. I wonder if people are going to be going to prison. Get caught with like a couple of plants in your gaff over there in Germany. Will they lock you up? It'll be interesting to see how judges might respond to these discussions. But it says, in an effort to combat the hold of the black market, current medical distributors are suggesting lower taxes on the substance to remain competitive. And some distributors are also advocating for the inclusion of online retails, but this has led to this has received criticism on this idea under the assertion that this would not protect minors and would be more difficult to regulate. And if the legalization goes through, the country will also have to decide whether to continue importing what German rappers are calling Bubats, or if they will invest in growing their own supply. So fingers crossed they might try to do something like Switzerland and kind of focus on the internal production. But again, let's see what happens there later this year when they release a draft on this bill. But it's funny seeing all these clickbaity headlines all the time. When on an actual fact, they haven't begun anything really. It's like 1 to 2 years. It's like they've been talking, like what they're saying they've begun. They were doing this already. They've been talking about it for ages. They're doing is just a more formal talk at the moment. They're bringing in the experts now. It's good to see that they're bringing in cannabis growers in there. I hope these are people who are actually growing for themselves within Germany rather than the commercial cannabis growers, the likes of Tilray, Cureleaf and stuff like that. I would really hope it's the grassroots guys over there, campaigning for legalization and all of that. So happy days in Germany. Fingers crossed something positive comes out of there. But then after Germany, we go to something not so positive. Where is she? Oh, we lost her. It was this lady, Eve Simmons. She has a pinned to her thing, so we'll go to her Twitter and we'll find it there. This lady. So, California's legal cannabis dream became a public health nightmare. Which, again, more fear-mongering. So this is a lady, Eve Simmons. Apparently she's a health journalist or something along those lines for the Mail. So this is mailplus.co.uk is where this is featured. And you see this lady here pictured with some cannabis plants. And what this lady is actually doing and where this article, what this article was born out of was the recent fact-finding mission of the London Lord Mayor and the Drug Commission that he took over there to California, where they went over to learn about the effects of cannabis legalization. And they came back with a lot of positive findings from my understanding. And this lady went over and she kind of followed in his footsteps. She's pictured here within one of the cannabis farms that this individual actually, or that the London Mayor, Sadiq Khan, actually visited. So it says here, Eve Simmons at the traditional marijuana growing up and store in downtown Los Angeles. So this is where Sadiq Khan actually visited, and she's following him there. But again, some fine-looking cannabis plants, and a lady, who... It kind of seems, you're kind of wondering, this lady's standing around cannabis plants. She must be a supporter of it, but no, in actual fact, she's far from it. She's actually very hateful of the cannabis plant, as we'll soon learn. I wouldn't suggest going over reading her article. I don't really want to be sending people over there and giving her clicks. But it's a very lengthy article. She has a lot to say. In fairness, you can see all of that there. I don't think I'm going to get through all of this at all because we'll be here for ages, and it's 4:20 out there again. Actually, Accra, Bamako, Dakar, Azores Island, much more important than whatever this lady was about to say in her article. But yes, happy 4:20 out there, guys, wherever you are. Blaze one up. Let's go back to Eve Simmons. She opens her article with these few paragraphs. A row of luxury healing creams is guarded by a locked glass cabinet gilded in gold trim. The packaging is stylish, minimal, clean and white with small black typeface, And beside the tubs sit decorative artificial fruit and images of sprawling fields with a small flyer to remind customers of the high quality organic nature of the products. Sorry, I'm just going to mute that thing because it's beeping away. It says the packaging is, I spot one pot, a snip, at $43 or roughly £35 that is specifically designed for replenishing and rejuvenating tissues in the vagina. She probably should have put a question mark after that there, like, you know, the vagina. She's kind of hesitating. So it's like, what are you hesitating for? You know, you're a lady, you shouldn't be stigmatizing the female body. And it's like, yeah, there actually is really good benefits from some of the topicals that can be used for people's vaginal issues. But yeah, cannabis can definitely be a benefit there. And these products are not really are not designed to actually getting you high. As it says, they're replenishing and rejuvenating the tissues in the vagina. It's like, why shouldn't ladies have access to that? But they shouldn't be charged that much for it. I think that should be a lot cheaper, in fairness. Or at least maybe those pots should last you quite some time, maybe, I don't know. It says that then, alongside me, expensive dress customers peruse the goods, clutching colourful ice smoothies and juices. I'm in upmarket Beverly Hills in Los Angeles, California, and one of the area's so-called wellness shops, just a stone's throw from designer boutiques such as Gucci and Saint Laurent. It's a far cry from Holland & Barrett, not least because all the products here are at the Sarah Boutique contain high-grade, genetically engineered cannabis. It's like, well, like that commonly. It's like, it tells you really where the article is actually going. I can't even highlight the words. There we go. Genetically engineered cannabis. It's like, in fairness, genetically engineered, like that's a real stretch, you know? It's like, genetic, like, in fairness, unless she's at Monsanto store. It says there are balms and lotions, things to eat, and of course to smoke. One display cabinet showcased dozens of dried cannabis flowers, and each bud sitting on its own pretty porcelain dish, labelled according to its supposed benefit: happiness, creativity, and relaxation. You know, supposed benefit. Like, this lady's gone in there with a completely closed mind from the get-go. This lady has gone over there. She's like one of these researchers, you know, who are kind of maybe corrupted by the grants that are easily attained when you're out there looking to shine a negative light on drugs. She went in there with a predefined outcome. She wanted to come away with something bad to say. You know, genetically engineered cannabis, supposed benefits. It's like, lady, come on, open your mind. Get off the get over and sit in the fence for a little bit. Open your mind a little bit, you know, and let's see what's on the other side. Don't judge it before you actually come and take a proper look. But it seems like, no, this lady's mind is closed. You see her here in the photo, actually, guys. Does she remind you of anybody, you know? Anybody? Hands folded. The O'Lean. I dubbed this picture the Frankie Lean. Didn't they, you know, they're like a perfect couple, do you know? It's like, fucking... I don't know, like, I think it's a match made in hell. Two absolute cretins. Because both of them, you know, a health-led approach, like neither of them would know a health-led approach if it smacked them in the face. This lady talking about, like, the California dream being a health disaster. The only thing disaster over there is your lazy journalism, lady. Hey, Mr. Bobby, welcome to the 420 News, dude. Hopefully all is well over there in your side of the pond. We're currently covering a news article here from the US of A. That this lady, Eve Simmons, she's a journalist in the UK, but she was recently over in the US, over in California, following the London Lord Mayor. And she's trying to paint these things in the most negative light ever. But in fairness, like, she's in a high-end store. It's like, this is actually, it's probably going to be going against her, in fairness. Like, and the reason, you know, it goes against her, and I'm just going to maybe skip over a lot of this stuff here. She talks about recreational use of cannabis, which is classified as a Class B drug in the UK, and possession of which could land you with up to 5 years in prison. Has been legal in California since 2016. It's like, well, why didn't she actually talk about the harms there of the fact that getting caught with cannabis can get you up to 5 years in prison, and how much of a cost that is on the taxpayers over there in the UK, and the mental health problems imposed upon people because of that incarceration. Talk about the cost of that in society. But no, you'll never really do that, because that'll be a proper piece of journalism, and it'll cause you to actually challenge the narrative a little bit. But no, you just want to go with it, and just want to take your piece of the pie here and jump on the old prohibition bandwagon, don't you? Put out your old hit piece on the cannabis legalization movement as it gains momentum over in Ireland and the UK, and across the rest of Europe and the world, I suppose, really. Thailand, yes, go on, Thailand. That's why I see this coming as a response to all of the triumphs of the cannabis community across the world. Hit pieces like this, and even the one there earlier that we listened to on the Pat Kenny show, that was another hit piece in response to the growing movement of cannabis legalization across the globe. She goes on to say that today 1 in 5 people in California use cannabis regularly, and it has become something of a health trend, not simply legal and above board, but judging by the stylish throng at Sarah when I visited, practically de rigueur. But again, that the fact that it's 1 in 5 people in California use cannabis regularly, isn't it better that those 1 in 5 people are actually using cannabis that comes from a regulated market, rather than making it illegal? And maybe 80% of that 1 in 5 people will continue to use it illegally, and therefore face the risks posed by prohibition, on top of the supposed health risks of cannabis. Then she takes kind of a stab at the sales assistant. She says, who all look like Hollywood star turned health guru Gwyneth Paltrow, who tells her of a variety of uses for aching muscles, headaches, anxiety, insomnia, arthritic pain, and many more. And then she goes on to quote the lady as well, and I think that's a very rude thing to do, because this lady shared with her how cannabis was helping her, and then she kind of used it in this derogatory way here in this hit piece on cannabis users. She says, I take a very small dose every day just to calm any nerves I might be feeling. One willowy tan brunette tells me. Going on to say, it's definitely changed my life for the better. Out in the streets, billboards advertising cannabis shops, or dispensaries as they are officially known, which makes them sound very medical, are on every corner inviting customers to try alternative healing. And why shouldn't they be there? The cost of healthcare in the US is absolutely ridiculous. If these people can help offer alternatives at a cheaper price, then happy days. But it goes on to say that some shops are also art galleries, while others sell hipster favourites such as artisan coffee. Again, what's your problem there? It's like, what's the issue? Is it not nice to be able to go into a place that has some fine art up on the wall? Maybe some people wouldn't ever get exposed to art, and then they go in there and they find, actually, I like art. I want to go to more art galleries now. More benefits of regulation, actually. It seems like her hit piece is kind of going against her, really. Even her little glass cabinet picture here, it's very appealing, in fairness. It screams like that. Yes, legalization, regulation works. Look at these beautiful displays of cannabis flowers here for consumers who want to come in and look at the different cannabis on offer. But we go on down to the end, because she just really she waffles for a lot of it, and a lot of it is just a lot of more waffly bullshit of the supposed risks of cannabis. But we get down here and we go to one of their extreme cases. This is the lady Michelle Leopard, 57, from San Francisco. She talks about how she fell victim to the worst possible consequence of the normalization of cannabis use, and that's in 2019. Her 18-year-old son Trevor died after dabbling with prescription painkillers and unwittingly taking a tablet of powerful opioid fentanyl following 4 years of addiction to cannabis. So again, this is more just bullshit where they're trying to say that cannabis use led to other drug use. Well, if cannabis use was legal and that this individual was really addicted to it, then it's a failing of the addiction services, and it's also a failing of the community around this individual, because there was something underlying there that led to this person to want to go to more powerful opioids like fentanyl. And again, maybe the guy wasn't actually even going to take fentanyl. So it's said that a friend actually gave him the pills, and he was later found dead in his room by his roommate. And it's an unfortunate situation to be in, but to blame it on cannabis, to blame it on his addiction to cannabis. I'd imagine while he was addicted to cannabis, he was probably also addicted to other substances and abusing other substances because of maybe issues that were there. Maybe these parents were fucking just completely disconnected from the individual, and they just want to blame cannabis rather than actually take looking on the inside and a look in the mirror, I suppose, really. Michelle Lepard here says the only reason he touched those pills was because he was searching for stronger highs. So again, that's not caused by cannabis. How can you blame cannabis for not being strong enough? It's just ridiculous. Like my cannabis at the moment, like it's happy days. It's the job, but like to say that it's not strong enough, it's like no. I've had cannabis that wasn't strong in the past, like, but I'm not going to start taking pills because I've got some weak cannabis. Like no. Unless I suffered with chronic pain, and that's a different issue, isn't it? She says, when Trevor's habit began in 2014, cannabis was everywhere, she says, and at that time it was permitted for medical reasons, but regulation was a farce. He wasn't yet 16, but he and his friends could log on to a website, say they had anxiety, and get cannabis. I don't think the potential harms were on his radar. Within a few weeks, Trevor was smoking most days after school, and we very quickly realised that this was not the same stuff we'd seen people smoking at college. It didn't make him mellow or relaxed, it made him angry or violent. Again, like, cannabis making you angry or violent? I don't know, I think that's an awful stretch there. I think the guy probably was lashing out at the parents who were probably being very, I suppose, how would you say, I suppose, not open to what he was actually doing, and they were probably being very derogatory towards him for what he was doing too. Says Michelle's adorable son began punching walls during screaming arguments with his parents. He broke cell phones, computer screens in anger. She said he started skipping school and his grades plummeted. He was a bright, studious kid before. We tried therapy, raiding his room, and tough love. What's tough love actually mean? Nothing worked to get him to stop. Says Trevor enrolled in 3 rehabilitation programs at a cost of more than £100,000, but none worked. It's like all this because of cannabis. I think all of this effort to stop the cannabis use actually probably made these problems worse. Probably made him feel not wanted within his community, and make him feel like a burden, a problem, a bad person even, I would imagine a lot of their efforts probably were counterproductive to their aim. Says then in 2019, shortly after Trevor turned 18, a medical cannabis card arrived in the post. Trevor suffered with terrible anxiety about his final exams. So there you go, like the guy suffered with anxiety. Says about his final exams, but if you suffered with anxiety about his exams, he probably suffered with anxiety about a lot of other stuff. And maybe when he used cannabis for the first time, it was beneficial for him and he wanted to continue that benefit, much like I kind of experienced myself when I first tried cannabis. But it went on to say that in his last years of high school and everywhere you look, there are messages telling you cannabis helps you de-stress. It does help you de-stress, in fairness. Like, cannabis is not for everybody. Again, you know your own body better than anybody else, and if you try cannabis and it's not for you, you'll quickly find out and you just won't go back and try it anymore afterwards. You're not going to be doing some of this stuff here that Johan talks about, which was scromating. We'll get to scromating in a little while. But we'll finish off with the story on Trevor. It says, we obviously confiscated, but every time we did, he'd order another one. And that September, Trevor began reading business studies at Sonoma State University, just outside San Francisco. And on the evening of November 17, 2019, a friend gave Trevor 4 painkiller pills, one of which was fentanyl. The drug carries a risk of respiratory failure where patients become so sedated they stop breathing, and Trevor's body was found by his roommate the next morning. Michelle says after it happened, we couldn't be quiet anymore. It's a matter of saving lives. The industry is doing its best to drive a false narrative about the raft of health benefits of cannabis. Meanwhile, there are hundreds of parents like me who are losing their kids. Hundreds of parents. Lady, you're telling lies, aren't you? Come on, like how many parents have really lost their kids to cannabis? Like really, the cannabis? I would imagine there's few and far between.
Like, really, when you read into this, it seems like that this lady and their unwillingness to accept the fact that their son liked to use cannabis drove enough of a wedge there between them. And it was unfortunate that his friends gave him some painkillers. He could have been taking them for anything. Like, who knows? The guy could have been in college doing bloody weightlifting or something. He could have been a powerlifter. And you know, that's a common occurrence with powerlifters, is they die from accidental overdoses, or in this case where you accidentally get fentanyl. That's an unfortunate situation. But to connect it to cannabis, to blame it on cannabis, it's absolutely ridiculous. Now, this guy's no mention here of powerlifting or any sports or anything, so I'm just kind of, you know, just really going outside and theorizing a little. After speaking with Michelle, it's hard to imagine any benefit of legalizing cannabis that would be worth the risk. In fairness, like, imagine any benefit. How about an age limit? How about strength and potency control? How about consumers actually being able to make educated decisions around their consumption? How about reducing the stigma around the use of cannabis, where parents won't make such a big deal about it if their 16-year-old is kind of experimenting a little bit, or if there was even better education there as to how it could help young people dealing with anxiety and depression and stress and stuff like that growing up as well, in a medicinal format and professionally controlled and all of that. Not saying that a kid should be able to walk into a dispensary, but I'm saying certainly there is going to be beneficial uses of cannabis medicines for younger people with different mental health problems too. We already have a growing problem in Ireland where young people are being prescribed psychotic drugs. I see cannabis as being a much safer alternative. But yeah, there's a bit more within that article there, but yeah, scromating. Let's get the scromming. We get off Chrome and we pop up. So there's Eve. This is her tweet about it. Legalizing pot seems like a common sense policy, but in fact, it's a public health disaster that the MJ industry is doing its darndest to cover up. Totally unwoke, I know, but facts are facts. My report from sunny, smelly LA here. Like, does this not show her position again? Like, smelly LA is like, man, in brackets, smelly. She's clearly just referring to cannabis. Like, again, this lady doesn't like cannabis. Like, from her picture here, she doesn't look like a person who doesn't like the smell of cannabis, but her tweet says different. We've got some continued tweets here then from her. She says, 2 days ago I was outside a children's gymnastics centre watching my 2-year-old niece do a class, and the smell of weed was stifling. Doctors out here have told me they're seeing cases of cannabis poisoning most days. It is the most common form of any type of poisoning in adolescence in California. And it says, oh, and there's also a doubling of something odd called scromating. So scromating, like, have any of you ever heard scromating before? Like, this is hilarious, scromating. So it's what scromating is, she says, is it's screaming and vomiting which lasts for weeks on end with no treatment, a result of long-term use of high-potency cannabis. Guys, like, is your bullshit meter, like, after exploding out there? If so, I apologize. And you should send an email to Eve Simmons and to the Daily Mail and say, come here, this lady is spouting bullshit of the highest order. Because she is, like, scromating. She completely has made this up. Like, nobody is out there vomiting and screaming. Like, come on, anybody not? I've definitely pulled a whitey and a greenie, and passed out and gotten sick and shit like that, but I've never scromated. I've never been screaming and vomiting. Like, in fairness, what in cannabis causes you to scream? Come on, like, oh, what a lady. And then she actually goes on to tag Sadiq Khan there afterwards, the London Lord Mayor. Again, you know, I'd love to see her up there to have a chat with the London Lord Mayor as to his findings and his experience and her views, because I'd imagine she'd quickly be exposed as a bit of a lunatic prohibitionist, because, like, scromating, lady, come on. Like, your use of that word is the first I could find. I really couldn't see any reference to it before you. Scromating. Barry Fiedel says, sounds like my ball bag doing something. Scatna says he once scromated after eating Aldi cocktail sausages. Like screaming, come on, like this is the lady who wrote that article, like Eve Simmons. Like, lady, come on, you're an absolute dingbat. But somebody called her out for her hypocrisy, and I have to give him credit for doing so. It's our very own Dana Larson. So we'll pop him up on screen there now. Boom. So here we see a tweet ad or from Dana Larson. We'll pop him up there. We get it up on big screen. Dana Larson pointing out here, he's saying, why is it always the people who love bragging about how much alcohol they consume who are also the ones complaining and fear-mongering about cannabis? He says, you can chug all the liquor you like, just leave us pot smokers alone, thanks. Fair play, Dana Larson. You know, and that's a very elegant way of saying it to this lady. You know, you're very kind to her because she was quite rude about cannabis consumers and the smell from our products. Like whatever about the smell from our products. What about how rude drunk people can be? And that's not a stab at all drunk people. But imagine if we did paint all drunk people like this woman has been painting cannabis consumers. But she here it is some of her tweets. Like, she's retweet if you're drunk, and she's tagging a couple of people here, and it goes on then, you know, it says, drunk, all the tequila, got home, stained bed sheets with pasta sauce, and watched 15 minutes of Ian McKellen, whoever that guy is, and it says, wait, what, where, I'm drunk? Yeah, these are some of the ladies' tweets. Now, these tweets are going back a bit, like, so fair play for Dana for being able to put these together, one from 2016, one from 2017. This one here is no date, but I imagine it's probably around the same time. So 2017 these are from as well. Again, you know, these are quite old, but again, you know, it goes to show, you know, the double standards there. This lady is, it's okay for her to get stupid drunk. But for the rest of us to enjoy a bit of cannabis, it's like, no, that's terrible, and it's a health travesty. But you know, getting drunk and staying in your bed with pasta sauce is okay. No, come on, double standards, lady. Nobody should be in prison for getting drunk and staying in bed sheets for pasta sauce, and nobody should be in prison for growing and consuming cannabis. Yeah, what's that? Current status, alone in the most comfortable bed ever with wine belly and free Pepsi, watching toddlers and tiaras. Lady. It's hilarious, like, isn't it? Double standards there. It's all good to tweet about being drunk, but meanwhile, you know, let's shit all over the people who consume a bit of cannabis. And let's make up terms that, you know, nobody has ever heard of before. What a fucking dingbat. But yeah, one more headline I have for you then, and we will love you and start leaving you. We'll see what's happening in the hot box. There is we see lots happening out there. Mr. Finnegan says, just a polite request, also a reminder to like, share, subscribe, follow, and whatever to the cool kids to do the same to spread the greatest Irish podcast webbed or net thing ever. Nice one. And guys, don't forget about 710. 710 happening this Sunday above in Phoenix Park, Dublin. So hopefully people can make it up there for that. So it's going to be a civil disobedience protest. So bring your own cannabis. Don't be coming trying to expect to source some cannabis there on the day, unless you know somebody who's coming and they're going to share it with you. But don't be just coming up and asking a stranger to sell you some cannabis, because that's not cool. It's kind of awkward, especially, you know, when you might have some cannabis but you don't want to sell it, and you kind of feel like a douche for saying, you know, no. Because like most cannabis consumers are kind of relatively sound people and want to help each other out, but when it comes to, you know, your last nug that you might have, you might be a bit fucking hesitant to share it and feel bad for not doing so. So don't come and just ask some random stranger for weed. Bring your own weed. If you can't get some, just come and enjoy the secondhand smoke that'll be floating about in the air that day. Don't be alarmed if you see some cops there as well. The cops will be there in support of us, protecting us, policing the event, making sure everybody is safe. And we've done this many times already, and the cops have not interfered with people as they grinded, rolled, and smoked their cannabis there on the day. So bring your own cannabis, and do so with the knowledge, knowing that you'll be safe to consume it as part of the mass civil disobedience protest above there in the Phoenix Park this Sunday. And the weather's supposed to be good, actually, I think. Let's have a look at the weather. fingers crossed with sunshine. There we go. Sunday looks good. There we go. Sunday looks good. 21 degrees, sunshine, bit of cloud, precipitation. Little chance of precipitation there on the day, guys. So yes, it's going to be a hell of a day above there in Dublin on Sunday. So make sure you be there or be square. I also want to bring to people's attention there is volunteer positions open at the moment for Electric Picnic. Hopefully you've all heard of Electric Picnic. If you haven't, it's a music festival that happens pretty much every year here in Ireland. Above in a place called Stradbally, I believe it's called, in County Meath, I think is the county that it's based in. Forgive me my geography is a bit shy at times. But here is the call. So it's over there on Twitter. If you find Grams DB over on Twitter, and you'll be able to find the link through this Medium forum. So if you click that link there, within that, then you'll be able to find the application. So this is the form. So basically what we're looking for volunteers for helping with is the drug welfare. What drug welfare is basically it's going to be a safe space for people who might be having a bit of a difficult time with the substance that they've consumed, whether that be alcohol or some other drug. We won't turn people away. We'll provide a non-judgmental harm reduction service where we'll have a safe space for people to come, crash out, lie down, and do so with the knowledge that they're in a safe space, that there's going to be no danger of them, being taken advantage of in any way while they might go to sleep and sleep off the effects. They'll also be continuously monitored throughout their time at the service to make sure that nobody's, say choking on their vomit, as can commonly happen with people when they're drunk. You get drunk, you fall asleep in your back, you get sick, stick stays lodged in your throat. There's nobody around seeing it happen. You end up passing away and dying, whereas at the harm reduction service, if we see somebody in that situation where they're after falling asleep, we'll make every effort to get them into the recovery position, lie them on their side, so if unfortunate happens and they do get sick, it won't be stuck in their throat. So that's just a small example of some of the many things we do there. Other things we do, we provide one-to-one distraction kind of services where we help talk people down if they're having maybe a kind of a psychotic episode. We'll have people there who've been trained to talk to people in these situations, and we'll have other services there as well. So if this sounds like something you'd be interested in helping out and being a part of, then do come over to Twitter, find this link on Grams DB's Twitter page, and then fill out the Google Forms here. So that's the Google Forms there, and there you see the photo of all ourselves. You see myself there first, Darren, Graham, Deck, one of the lads from Help Blue, and Ferg. So that's the Help No Harm team back there in 2016 at Electric Picnic. So just your name, first name, last name, and email address, occupation, organisation, or a college. Do you understand the priorities given to people able to work all days and I'm willing to work the following days? So it's a 4-day festival, so if you're able to work only one, you just click one day. If you're able to work all of them, you click all of them. So yeah, it won't let me click them here now as but you know what I mean. Dietary restrictions, non-vegetarian, and I accept undertake at least one virtual or in-person training taking place before the festival. Boom, click yes there. Boom. So there you go. That's the Help No Harm form for the volunteers for the Drug Welfare Festival this year. So if you want to be a part of that, guys, do get over there and sign up. I'll quickly remind you on how to do it, as this is the most easiest way I have right now. GramsDB over on Twitter. Find his post over there. It's one of his most recent posts anyway, so it's actually pinned to his Twitter post, and you'll be able to click in there. Once you click in there, quickly scroll down, you'll see the form there. It's hyperlinked. Boom, click that. Off you go to the form, fill it in, and we'll be back in touch with you. So there we go. Hopefully some people out there will be able to get over to Twitter and sign up. If not, drop me an email. If you want to drop me an email, if you're not on Twitter, if you don't want to go onto Twitter for this, drop me an email if you're interested. martinsworldpodcast@gmail.com. Just put in their reference volunteer welfare, and I'll know exactly what you're looking for. And I'll email you on the link and to the form, directly to the form, and you can just fill it out and apply then that way. Jessica Deegan says, that's brilliant. Should be available every weekend there, nightclubs. Yeah, it should actually. In fairness, like, there should be drug welfare all over the place. Stephen Kavanagh, what's happening? Stephen Knock says, do you have to buy your own ticket, or is there limited access to EP? So to the lucky people who volunteer, or to the amazing people who volunteer, you'll be all given crew wristbands. So the crew wristbands are kind of all access wristbands in a certain sense. Obviously there's going to be green rooms and places within the stage areas that you probably will find it very difficult to get access to. But with these crew passes, we've been able to gain access to all of the concerts and to help people in all areas. I think it was over at was it Creamfields? Somebody backstage was having a bit of a hard time after some drugs, and we had to get the drug welfare up there, and we were helping them out as well, so that was kind of cool. So we've done this drug welfare at Boom Festival over in the UK, the Boomtown, Creamfields, and a couple of others as well. So yeah, it's really good service, needed everywhere. Scatness says, I drink almost exclusively out of social pressures. Very same, actually, in fairness. In a certain sense, I suppose, I kind of started enjoying a glass or two of wine here and there. Very infrequent now, in fairness. But people have kind of started gifting me a bottle of wine now, my mum and stuff like that. It's kind of like, oh, you like the wine now, Martin? Oh, yeah, new thing I can get you a gift of every now and again. So, yeah, we've gotten a few gifts of wine, so we've enjoyed that. But social pressure, yeah, I suppose even getting a gift of drink is kind of social pressure, isn't it? You don't want to leave it go to waste. But yeah, I know what you mean. Been in situations, all right, now, and we went out there a few weeks ago and we were like, oh, yeah, sure, we'll have a glass of wine and stuff like that. It was a real shame you just couldn't go and buy a pre-roll, and it'd be much better if you could buy a pre-roll and have an old token and a Raza. Raspberry cordial for people not from Cork and don't know what Raza is. But yeah, Stephen Cav, no, you don't have to buy your own ticket. You'll be given a crew wristband, so you'll be able to access the entire weekend up there. But again, remember what was said there in the volunteer form, that preference is going to be given to those who are available for the entirety of the festival. So that's the Thursday to the Sunday. But again, if you're only available for, say, Friday and Saturday, apply anyway, as we will certainly have room there for people. But we need somebody for the whole thing. But we'll certainly be able to accommodate people who are only available for a short period. Oh, there you go, Magnetic Maggie, legend. It was Leash. What did I say? Mead, Leash. Close enough. Stradbally was right though, wasn't it? But yeah, above there in Leash. Tinkle Tink, what's happening? Just looking through the hot box here now. John Figan says, Steve, oh no, he wasn't Scatness. Don't even have a beard. Scatness says, and free drug testing should be everywhere. Well, that's supposed to be a part of the festivals now, according to the Irish legislators. Like they kind of changed the rules there not too long ago that drug testing should be available at music festivals, at nightclubs, but we've yet to see it implemented. Let's hope that, maybe in the coming weeks there'll be an announcement there from the HSE that they will begin drug testing at places like Electric Picnic. It'll be great, if at Electric Picnic this year, drug users would have an area of amnesty where they'll be able to go into, and an area of amnesty means that the cops won't be there waiting for you to come up to stop and search you and catch you with your drugs. The amnesty will be that you can walk freely through, knowing that the cops won't interfere with you. You can give your drugs in, get them tested, and go away as well and not be followed and harassed because you used the service. That's amnesty. So fingers crossed there'll be an area of amnesty and a drug testing service there, and proper harm reduction service implemented at the festival this year. And we actually save lives. when it was done over at Boomtown in 2019, they were finding like samples of cement in people's drugs. Like there was literally cement powder in people's cocaine or MDMA, whatever they were trying to thinking that it might have been. But it was cement. They were finding washing powder and all sorts of other contaminants within the different baggies that were tested. So you know it's ridiculous what gets sold to people as a drug out there, and just feck all you can really do to protect yourself if these sort of services aren't available, because prohibition just sucks. Pod's here saying, no, if only they started testing drugs at EP and the likes. Yeah, 100%. Mr. Finnegan saying it as well, that it is a great thing to get involved with. Just think about someone you have seen or ever been in a situation yourself where you know, if only I could be anywhere else for a few minutes. Karma counts, peep. Yeah, well, that's it. Well, that's what we find as well, John, is that a lot of the people who come and volunteer for these drug welfare services understand what the person would be going through. And what would help a person in that situation, because you've got a better understanding of it than maybe a paramedic. Like we've seen situations where people were out of it on drugs, like on MDMA, let's say, for example, and the paramedic being there to them, you know, why did you do this? That was such a silly thing a stupid thing to be taking these drugs. And you know, the risk of taking drugs, you know, you could die. And the person is just like, I'm going to die. Oh no, you know, and they're just freaking the fuck out, like, because that's all they heard, like, is just the negative bullshit coming off of the negative judgmental bullshit coming off the paramedic, because the paramedics aren't trained to deal with this. They're not equipped to deal with this. A paramedic is only trained and equipped to deal with somebody if they fall over and, you know, twist their ankle or bang their head or something like that. That's what they're trained and equipped for. A person having a bit of a hard time on something like MDMA, who needs to have somebody to kind of talk to them in a non-judgmental way, and just to just have patience for them. Paramedics don't have patience. They don't have time to have the patience, because, you know, while you want somebody to talk to you while you're coming down after your MDMA, there's people behind you in agony and pain just coming in after twisting their ankle or something, you know, and the paramedic wants to go over to them, and he's no interest in helping you. So what we find is people who understand that come and volunteer with us, and it's amazing when it happens that way, because you know, the quality of service that people get at the drug welfare is it's top notch. Tinkle Tink says it would be interesting to see bring a THC content machine there to see the strengths that are floating about around. Yeah, there's something in the works there. I won't say anything. There might be an announcement to be made there in the coming days. There's inquirements being made about it, getting access to a machine like that. But it won't be done by us. But we'll know somebody who might be present at the electric picnic who could be doing that. So we'll see what happens. B. Mooney saying they can anonymously dispose of their cannabis by giving it to me if they want. Yeah, me too. I'll join in with you there, B. Mooney. Anybody want to dispose of their cannabis, you can have send it to me. Or B. Mooney. He can be, send it to B. Mooney too. Yeah, nice one, Mr. Finnegan. He says, yep, exactly my point, Martin. Fist bump. Bop. Right. So that is all of today's 420 news. Let's
boom, yes. Messing around here with this thing, it's quite cool.
Picking around to the headlines.
Back. Again, nice one, Hazmat. I'll get more acquainted with this and better equipped. I need to sort out my Streamlabs now and get the software better set up, because the way I had it before was a bit of a mess. But now with the Stream Deck, going to tidy it up and get it going. Stradbally, that's the 1st of September to the 4th of September. So it's going to start on a Thursday and it finishes on a Sunday. But again, we're looking for people right across that weekend. So if you can only do some or all of that, make sure you get your form in if you're interested at all. Preference will be given to people who can do all of it. But again, you know, we will be able to accommodate a limited number of people who are only able to do a couple of days. So make sure you get your application in if you're at all interested in helping out. Again, training will be provided to people But get your applications in sooner rather than later, so you can get informed about the upcoming training days. John Finnegan says, me thinks me knows who you're talking about. Nice one, Mr. Finnegan. Yeah, we'll keep it a sec. I don't want to be spilling the beans on anything, because I think I might have been told that in confidence. I can't really remember now. But yeah, Pods for 420, given first weekend in September, Hazmat. Nice one, Hazmat. Yeah, if you're available at all, Hazmat, as I said, the forum is over there on Twitter at GramsDB, GRAMSDB, and it's pinned to his thing. I'll actually retweet it. I think I might have retweeted it myself on Twitter as well. But yeah, it's over there. Get an application and let us know when you're available. We'll have your contact there then, and we'll be able to inform you of the training days when they're happening. But it's a great opportunity. It's going to be the second time that we're providing the service at the festival. We provided it in 2016, and we're back again now in 2022. I believe Anna Liffey went in and done it afterwards, but and nothing against them, but the service they provided was nothing at all like what we provided. They went up there 9 to 5. They went away at 5 o'clock, and there was nobody there throughout the night providing drug welfare. Their drug welfare and harm reduction was somebody there with a flyer talking about them. Like, it's funny that this is the HSE's response to drugs. We'll get them up there in 1 second. Have you seen this guy? If you go back to the Chrome, boom.
The HSE's go slow snail. It's quite cool, in fairness, like, you know. But like the HSE have paid hundreds of thousands, most likely, for this artwork. You know, start low and go slow. It's something we've been saying actually for free with the Students for Sensible Drug Policy for years. Students for Sensible Drug Policy were pushing this motto for a long time, and it's only now the guys are catching on. You know, that's the start low and go slow style. They have a turtle doing it as well. Start low and go slow. Drugs.ie. It's hilarious. Like, but hundreds of thousands of euro of taxpayers' money most likely spent on this. Slow down after lockdown. It's good. It's cool artwork, you know. Props to the artist, like, you know, whatever 4-year-old made it. Because it does look like something a 4-year-old, you know, gave a snail a bucket hat and a bum bag. But it's cool. It's cool. And hopefully, you know, it gets the message out there to people. Like, yeah, it'd be, but you know, it's like the HSE shouldn't be doing this. Like, to be fair, like, the HSE should be actually pushing for proper policy changes where people actually know what they're starting out with. Because the reason we start low and go slow is because sometimes the pills you might be taking might be stronger than you expect. So we say start low and go slow. Start low, make sure it's, you know, it's okay and it's not too strong. And if you need more, take more afterwards rather than taking too much initially because it was double their strength. But again, it's a problem caused by prohibition. And these are kind of HSE, it's government bodies. These guys should be really pushing the policymakers to try to make it a bit safer out there, not coming up with these like childish trons. But yeah, that's their harm reduction. Meanwhile, like, where's the drug testing? Come on, lads. Where's the drug testing? How can I start low if I don't even know if it's fucking MDMA or coke that I might be taking? Fucking gangsters up there. Tinkle Tink says, nice one, Martin. Thanks as always. Not a bother at all, Tinkle Tink. Might be able to pack up one more bowl here before we say goodbye to everybody out there. Going to be running there shortly now as we have a football match to go to. At the birthday girl Alexis going to be kicking around. First game as a 9-year-old. Woo! There's a proud dad cheering her on from the sideline. Look forward to it. Tinkle Tink saying the worst ever was spraying glass beads into cannabis. Unreal stuff. Prohibition causes harm. Oh, geez, the glass stuff on the cannabis, that was ridiculous. The days of the hard ashweed.
Remember the hard ashweed? You'd be smoking a joint, and next all of a sudden the ash is about like 10 foot long, and you're like trying to top it, and it's just like, nah, it's solid. Hard ashweed. Thank God that stuff is behind us. Steve, will there be space to park a car? Are you talking about at the event? Yeah, I believe there will be. Yeah, I believe you'll be able to park the car actually at the there should be staff parking up there, all right, or maybe even at the campsite next to the camping. You should be able to park there as well. But yeah, there's certainly going to be space up there to park a car, all right. I'm probably going to get a train up there actually myself, and I believe then there's going to be buses for the crew from the train station to there. But again, you know, everybody can travel however they like. But I do believe that travelling by train is probably going to be easiest, at least from Cork anyway. Hazma says, I just have to see if I can get my tent from the X. Fingers crossed there. Hopefully you left things on good terms. Otherwise you might be finding a few leaks there in the middle of the night. You know, she's like getting a few pinholes in there. Show the cunt now. B Mooney says, if it was labelled, we wouldn't need to go slow. We'd know dosage for feck's sake. Exactly, B Mooney, exactly. It's ridiculous that the HSC at this stage is only coming out with messages like that now. It's like that should have been a message that was going around 30 years ago, and you know, maybe if they started with that 30 years ago, we wouldn't be where we are today. We might actually have a regulation and better educated consumers of drugs out there. No, at EP, parking should be nearby to the camping anyway, so it shouldn't be an issue there, Steve. Magnetic Maggie says, yes, drug testing, please, to prevent self-harm and death. Exactly. Accidental self-harm. A lot of people accidentally having overdoses because, again, you know, the pill that they took was 2 to even 4 times stronger than what they intended it to be. That was findings of the Loop over there in the UK, things like Creamfields. They're finding pills that were like 4 times stronger than what a regular pill would be. No bueno, not good. John Finnegan says, wish Boldface the best of luck from me, and if she scores a goal, she has to dedicate it to me. Not a bother, Mr. Finnegan. We'll pass that along. Says B Mooney says, I wonder if that wagon from earlier drinks of an occasion with her carcinogenic alcohol. Yeah, most likely she probably does. You know, she probably drinks some wine and thinks it's totally fine, and it's like, no harm. But meanwhile, if you use cannabis at all in any form, you're going to be, you know, detrimental to your health. Yeah, double standards, man. These people just grifters. Stephen Cav says, if you're going early and leaving late, the car is always best. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, leaving late is key. Pod says Portlaoise is only up the road. Carlow or Athy are also close enough to Stradbally. And it's only about an hour from Wexford in the car. Boom, there you go. Yeah, when we went up there in 2016, which was the only time I was ever at Electric Picnic, it was a bit of chaos there on the road. But yeah, once we kind of got in there, then it's like happy days. I don't know, maybe early. I think we were kind of going up as part of the crew. So it was different, I suppose, for us. We weren't in with the regular punters. Guys, nice one, everybody, for your comments. I have a bowl packed up here now. I'm going to blaze this. And if any more comments come in the meantime, we'll read them out. Let me wick. was an early harvest, but still tasty out. Can't wait to get it nice and cured now. It'll be epic. Mr. Finnegan says Ross Cray is only down the road, Martin Connon, very near Boris and Ossery. Nice one. Classy name, that, Boris and Ossery. But yeah, you going to volunteer with us all, Mr. Finnegan? We will be seeing you along with Miss Magnetic Maggie as well, and a couple of others. I think Stephen Kavanagh's interested there by the sounds of it. Excellent stuff, guys. I really look forward to having you as part of the team, and others out there as well. Has Matt mentioned that might be interested in joining the team there as well. It's going to be a hell of a team, in fairness. Maybe Miss Green Tea will be able to join us, and Mr. Wes. Yeah, we'll have an incredible welfare team then. People will want to spend time at welfare even when they're not in need of welfare, because we're just going to be just so welcoming. Yeah, there you go, Magmatic Maggie with a great suggestion here, actually, is that the car parks can be a bit of a mess and they're huge. So a good recommendation coming in is to put up a flag, so to stick up by your car and have a nice old easily identifiable flag flying high. Hey. Because you don't want to be wandering around and being like, dude, where's my car? Oh, nice. Just got some wedding cake delivered as well. Excellent wedding cake. I've had that one in the past, and I've rather enjoyed it. Quite strong as well. It's said to be quite strong. I didn't get my stuff tested, but it was certainly a heavy hitter, all right. I self-tested. I self-tested it, and it was quite strong. So, right, guys, it's been an absolute pleasure. Almost 2 hours of 420 news gone out to you. It's great to be back. Apologies for being missing as well last week, as we were in transit. Didn't have the studio set up, and just needed a bit of time to get things together here. Thankfully, I was able to secure the time and the space there to get it done today. And we'll be back with more 420 news again the same day, same time next week. 420 next Wednesday. We'll be back with more 420 news. And if you're in Cork City this weekend as well, guys, the 9th, I believe it's the 9th, yeah, the 9th of July, we're going to be meeting up out there at the what's it called, St. Coleman's Cemetery out in Mahon, Blackrock area, and we're going to do a little bit of cleaning out there. So we're going to be meeting at about 2 o'clock out there at St. Coleman's graveyard, and we're going to give the place a bit of a cleaning out there while wearing the Tidy Buds vest, and maybe having a bit of a talk as well. But yes, make sure if you're able to come along, then be there. Mr. Finnegan says, don't be wandering around the car park like that Finnegan fella looking for a bus. And he still never found it. The story goes that Finnegan fella is still looking for the bus above there in Dublin somewhere. Man Fall says, Christ, I'm off a tolerance break now. I can't wait to smoke and blast off into space. Nice. Yeah, I hate having to go on a tolerance break when it's involuntary. But by Christ, when you go back onto it afterwards, yeah, it certainly does blast you off into space. It hits you like a ton of bricks. Guys, have a nice week anyway, and a lovely weekend. I'll be back Wednesday. Stay blessed. Keep it lit. Peace.